So what if the biggest moment in a title race wasn't a goal, or a save, or even a tackle? What if it was just silence? Okay, let's get into this. We're going to break down a 0-0 draw between Arsenal and Liverpool that was, believe it or not, way more dramatic, more controversial, and maybe even more important than any 5-4 thriller.
You know, it's the ultimate paradox in football, isn't it? The entire sport is defined by the final score. But here we are, looking at a match with a big fat 0 on the score sheet that sent shockwaves through the title race. So this explainer, it's all about answering that one question. How did a game with nothing on the scoreboard manage to give us, well, everything else? Drama, heartbreak, and a huge shift in momentum.
And that right there, that's where the real story kicks off. Not with the first whistle, but with that moment late in the game when a player just hits the ground and an entire stadium, tens of thousands of people, just holds its breath. That quiet tells you way more about the stakes and the human cost of this game than any goal ever could.
Because this was so much more than just a battle for 3 points. This was psychological warfare, a total clash of tactics, of grit, and pure willpower. You had Arsenal coming into this match with all the momentum in the world. But Liverpool, well, they showed up with a completely different game plan to prove that you don't need to have the ball to completely control a game.
Okay, just look at the pressure cooker situation this slide lays out. For Arsenal, they're at home, they're 6 points clear, and they have the best attack in the league. I mean, this was a golden opportunity. A win here would have been a huge statement, putting them 8 points ahead. But for Liverpool, the stakes were even higher. They're chasing, they're dealing with key injuries. A loss here? That could have been it. The final nail in the coffin for their title hopes.
So with the stakes that high, how did these two giants tackle it? Well, it was a classic clash of styles, a perfect tactical fight that you could really only describe as fire meeting ice. Arsenal brought the heat, that relentless pressure, all that intensity. And Liverpool, they brought the calm, a rigid structure, the calculated freeze.
And this just lays out those opposing philosophies perfectly. Arsenal's plan was all about getting on the front foot, owning the ball and using their super fast wingers to stretch Liverpool's defense until it just snapped. Liverpool's plan was the polar opposite. It was a masterclass in being pragmatic, survive that initial storm, stay super compact, deny every single inch of space, and just control the chaos with ice-cold discipline. This was never about winning beautifully. It was all about not losing, period.
And if you're wondering why Liverpool went with this ice strategy, well, you just got to look at who was missing. Their main goal threat, Mo Salah, was away on international duty. Their other key forwards, Isak and Ekatek, were both out injured. They were basically toothless up front, forced to rely on an attack built on pure work rate, not clinical finishing. So that defensive plan, it wasn't really a choice, it was a necessity. And at the very heart of that defensive masterclass was one man, Virgil van Dijk. I love this quote because it just perfectly captures his performance. Arsenal threw everything they had at them. Complex passing, overlapping runs, you name it. And Van Dijk just dealt with it all. Every header was perfect, every duel was won. He was the anchor of that icy, disciplined wall.
And the numbers, well, they don't lie. They back this up completely. I mean, look at this. The league's most dynamic free-scoring attack was reduced to just 9 total shots. Only 2 of them even hit the target. And their expected goals, the metric that tells you the quality of your chances, it absolutely flatlined. This wasn't just good defending, this was a total tactical shutdown. Okay, so then we get into the second half. And after surviving that early storm, you could just feel a little shift in the game's energy. Liverpool started to grow in confidence. They weren't just soaking up pressure anymore, they were starting to ask their own questions, pushing forward and finding these little pockets of space. The Emirates, which was buzzing with energy, started to get just a little bit nervous.
And get this, the most dangerous moment for Arsenal came from the most unlikely person on the pitch. Not a striker, but a defender, Conor Bradley, who just unleashes this rocket that smacks off the crossbar. That one moment tells you everything you need to know about this match. It showed Liverpool's lack of a real goal threat, for sure, but it also showed their incredible defiance. They were finding ways to be dangerous, even without their star players.
But just as Liverpool were building all this defiant momentum, the story just completely changes. The tactical chess match was about to get totally overshadowed by a moment of raw physical reality that reminded everyone what's really at stake in these games.
The 89th minute. Just 1 minute of normal time left to play. This is usually when teams are desperately pushing for a winner or just frantically holding on for the whistle. But here, the game just stopped. And the thing that made this so chilling, it was Conor Bradley, the same guy who almost scored that amazing goal. He goes down near the sideline with absolutely no one around him.
It wasn't a bad tackle or an awkward fall. It was just a sudden, brutal collapse. And in football, those are the injuries that you fear the most.
And immediately, instantly, the reaction from everyone was the same. Rivalry just vanished. Players from both teams were waving for the medical staff. The stretcher was on the pitch in seconds. And that's when that silence fell over the stadium. Not a tense silence, but one of real human concern. You could see Liverpool's manager, Arne Slot, his face just pale, pacing, knowing how serious this could be.
And after the match, Slot's words just confirmed what everyone was afraid of. He didn't give any vague updates or say the usual things. He simply said he was deeply worried. When a manager is that honest that soon after an injury, you know it's serious. It just casts this huge shadow over the result, the performance, and maybe Liverpool's entire season.
But right in the middle of all this concern, this deeply human moment, something else happened. The tension that had been simmering all game finally boiled over. And for a lot of people, a line was crossed, turning all that worry into pure fury.
So just picture the scene for a second. Bradley is down on the ground, he's clearly in a lot of pain, and he's surrounded by concerned players and medical staff. And in this moment of high emotion and distress, Arsenal's Gabriel Martinelli walks over to him.
And what happened next just sent social media into a complete meltdown. Martinelli, who was visibly frustrated, seemed to try and shove the injured player, like he was trying to hurry him up. And then he drops the ball right onto Bradley's chest. The Liverpool bench just exploded. Ibrahima Konaté stormed over to confront him. The ref handed out yellow cards, but really the damage was done. It was about the unwritten code of sportsmanship.
The backlash from the pundits was immediate, and it was brutal. Gary Neville, who never holds back, just straight up called the action embarrassing.
And Roy Keane, he went even further, calling it disgraceful. This wasn't just a minor disagreement. A lot of people saw this as a profound lack of respect for an injured opponent, and the condemnation was just immediate and everywhere. Okay, so you have to look at both sides of this, right? Martinelli's defenders, including his manager Mikel Arteta, they claimed it was just a heat-of-the-moment thing born out of the frustration of the game and that his intentions were misunderstood. But for most people watching, and definitely for the Liverpool camp, it was seen as an act of cruelty. It felt like an insult being literally dropped on top of a serious injury. So once the dust finally settled on the injury and all the controversy, what are we left with? A 0-0 scoreline that looks pretty insignificant on its own, but one that sends a massive ripple through the rest of the Premier League season. Let's just zoom out and look at the real consequences here.
And this slide, it just perfectly captures that sliding doors moment. If Arsenal wins, they go 8 points clear. That is a commanding lead, a huge statement that tightens their grip on the title. But instead, a draw just feels like this monumental missed opportunity, and the pressure actually goes up. And for Liverpool, a loss could have been devastating. But a draw? That's a defiant point earned against all the odds. And from that, they gain priceless momentum.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This result shouldn't be framed as Arsenal failing to win. It should be seen as a massive psychological victory for Liverpool. They went into the league leaders' fortress without their best attackers and just refused to break. That is a powerful message to send to the rest of the league.
So when you break it down, what did Liverpool really walk away with? It was so much more than 1 point. They left with belief, the real, concrete knowledge that they can go toe-to-toe with anyone, even when they're not at full strength. They left with a structural blueprint for how to handle these super tough away games, and most importantly, they left with momentum, a moral victory that could be the fuel that powers the rest of their season.
You know, in the end, this game was just the perfect reminder that football isn't always about the spectacle. It's not always about beautiful goals or dazzling attacks. Sometimes, the most powerful stories are written in defiance, in structure, and in just pure bloody-minded grit.
Which really just leaves us with this one big question. Over a long, grueling season, what proves to be more valuable? Is it the dominant, statement victory where you just blow an opponent away? Or is it the moment of defiant survival where you snatch a result from the jaws of defeat and show the entire world that you simply will not break? The answer to that question might just decide where the Premier League trophy ends up. So what if the biggest moment in a title race wasn't